All right, everybody, welcome back to Midwesternheads podcast episode 4. We've got Conor Kennedy here. Conor is a game designer.
Yeah.
Went to school for game design, right? KCAI, and working on a game right now. So we brought him in. Thought it was kind of cool what he was doing. So super good friend of ours, and we wanted to have him on the show. So welcome, Conor.
Thank
How you doing,
sir.
man?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Doing good.
Yeah.
Excited.
Feeling relaxed.
Yeah.
Good.
It's very nice in here.
Good. I'm glad you like it. We've every time we do this the podcast, it looks different. Like we're still like dialing in the look and the camera angles.
Yeah.
And
every iteration's just like a couple % better. So
with every paycheck, you'll have a new piece of gear.
Exactly. It's kind of the way it's been going.
Yeah.
We have something to waste all our money on now, so we're taking good advantage of that.
It's all different than episode 1 too.
Yeah.
Do what?
It was like,
What'd you say?
like the color behind Conor, that the whole area was that color. So.
Dude, my
together.
wonderful girlfriend painted most of this room.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The only thing I've been thinking about, though, with the way this is starting to, like, emerge, is one day you'll be like, this isn't going to work anymore, like this space. And it'll all be for naught, and everything will be taken down, and you'll set up somewhere else.
Yeah, eventually we're going to need, like, an office building.
Yeah.
Rent our own studio space or something.
Yeah.
Or a
I don't
garage.
know.
Is that what you mean?
I don't know where else you would put it up, but I just, like, as I see things starting to be added, I'm like,
Yeah, it's not going to fit.
One day it's all going to go. They're going to have to find a new space.
Either that,
but
or
the
we're gonna
attic's
have
so cool.
Yeah.
It's just not, people don't usually record in the attic, probably for a reason.
Yeah. Especially music. We were talking to Gabe on the last episode a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew when he came in here, he's like an audiophile, so he was like, he's like, man, how do you work with
What are you
this?"
doing?
Yeah. Just for sound, it's not good. You can hear, we kind of sound like a little boxy too.
Uh-huh.
Like you can hear the room a little bit.
It's a weird shape, for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely not conducive for any kind of audio mixing or anything.
Whenever I think about what you guys do with audio, though, like whenever I'm working on stuff, I have to have something else happening to keep myself from not going insane. So I listen to music, obviously, but with you guys, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I always think
it's hard to like do that and watch a movie or something visual.
It's got to be like impossible. But I can't even watch a movie.
Yeah.
I can't even listen to music that has lyrics in it. It has to be.
That's a common That's a good tip for people. Just listen to lyricless music
it has
or
to
instrumental.
Be. I can't work if there's lyrics.
Or music in a different language, like a foreign language.
Yeah, that helps sometimes too.
It sounds like it'd be kind of weird though. Like listen to K-pop or something while you're
I
working.
think that would just be distracting because it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's true too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit visual though.
it is. It is pretty stimulating because there's lots of like
Little things to look
lots
at.
of cool
Things
colors
happening to control. Yeah.
Right.
I do get to a point where I have to change you can like change the colors of your tracks.
Yeah, that's
I
the
have to
fun
get, like
part.
a rainbow going on because it does get old looking at just like green.
It's all one shade
Yeah.
of teal.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Teal and lime green is your, and then everything else is gray with white tips.
Everything's like a dingy gray color.
And there's different like stages of your development too, because like when I'm at like an early stage, or if I'm trying to build a system from scratch, then I obviously need complete attention.
Yeah.
But if I'm just doing like busy work, fixing little errors here and there, then something with lyrics is okay. That works then, because it's just busy work.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Editing.
you can space out while you do it and still know
Yeah.
that you're not gonna like fuck it all up or something like that.
Yeah. I made Conor a couple playlists.
That's good.
Dude.
A couple of work playlists.
Yeah.
A couple of like my own songs.
And they've
like
been
being
great.
super vain. Like, oh yeah, you gotta
It's like this is a
I don't want
top hit.
to blow smoke up your ass or anything, but I listened to your Future Phantoms album quite a bit.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
The only I understand it's an EP, but like when I sit down to work, what I try to do is I try to find an album that's almost the exact length of how long I think I'm going to be working, which is usually like an hour and a half. So like your album doesn't really work for that,
It's like
obviously.
16 minutes long.
Not that it should, or
Right.
could, but
You can loop it.
right. No. Well, I listen to game soundtracks a lot actually.
That's
So
good.
like
Yeah.
it's basically just like a minute or like a minute 50 looped like 3 or 4
That's
times
true.
per song.
Which ones? What was that one you showed me one night? There was a really, really good one you showed me up here one night.
I showed you Dust Force.
That might have been what it was.
And I showed you Sword and Sorcery.
That's what it was.
Sword and Sorcery is really, really good.
That one was really
I think
Yeah.
I've seen that game, like someone playing it.
It's really
like
pretty.
the soundtrack caught me off guard. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, it's actually something I would listen to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. What's one of your... Is that like one of your favorites?
Yeah, there's like two different kinds of game soundtracks, I think. And like with indie games in particular, they're more listenable outside of the game. You know, like it's not like a score so much. RPGs in particular, they have like scores.
Like a movie.
Yeah. But if it is an RPG, Chrono Cross. Chrono Cross has like one of the best scores of any game like ever made. It's fucking amazing.
I never even
listened to
played
it.
that.
I didn't either. I've never played it either, but I've heard the soundtrack
I
like
just always thought that was cool because they had
a
the
million
same artist who
times.
did Dragon Ball Z.
that's Chrono Trigger.
No, you're right.
That's what I'm
But
thinking of.
Chrono Cross may have the same artist. I don't
Okay.
know, but it doesn't really
I don't know, Chrono.
translate.
Chrono
I've played-
something.
No Chronos. I've never played them.
Yeah, I haven't either.
No, soundtrack wise, from like games, I would say like the original Fable.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
That soundtrack blew me away.
the towns are all really
Yeah.
good. RPG towns are always really.
They always have
usually always
great
have really
music.
good songs.
Well, and then Danny Elfman did the opening
Yeah.
theme song to that game,
Yeah.
so that was just really cool.
Danny Elfman.
Good soundtrack.
I don't know who that is.
Totally.
You can also
I like his
you can
stuff.
hear it big time. Like you hear a little bit of Batman in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's done a lot of big... He's like... I feel like he's when a film can't quite afford John Williams.
Or Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't afford
Didn't Family Guy make a
$5,000
joke
a
like
minute.
Yeah.
Probably
I
so.
think they did.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer is like
He's
He's a
my
god.
favorite.
Yeah,
he's my favorite.
He's insane.
It's unreal how good he is.
Didn't he do Lion King? Like
I
he
think
did all
so.
the background
I
score,
think he
like the
did.
non-musical stuff.
The
He
stuff
did
that
all the
wasn't
background stuff.
Elton John.
Yeah, just score.
the soundtrack.
And God, it's just so good.
He did the
Yeah.
new Blade Runner soundtrack.
He
so
did.
It's fucking
That movie
good.
was incredible.
I know, right?
Connor's obsessed with Blade Runner.
We don't have to talk about that,
He's like,
but
"Well."
I've made a joke many times in the past about that's how the whole podcast is just
It's
going
gonna
to be talking
devolve
about,
into that.
Going
just talking
back
about the
into
new Blade Runner.
We're like, so start at the beginning. What is Blade Runner? Just tell me.
Right.
And the can of worms.
It's
is
got
right.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Back from like his childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What elementary school did he go to?
it's a good movie though.
Yeah.
It really is. That's probably one of my favorite films of the year.
It's I think it's my favorite film.
Is it?
Yeah, it really is. Just so
Ever
fucking
did.
good. I guess
was
we're
just-
talking about it now.
Yeah,
That's all right.
It was just a breath of fresh air after everything else that's been coming out. Because unpopular opinion, I didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Really did not like that movie.
I can
so,
kind of
like,
agree.
A couple weeks later, well, I don't know, I don't remember the timing, but I saw 2049, and
Yeah.
I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I want filmmaking to look like, but I don't think everybody would want that.
Yeah.
No, totally not. I'll just we can move on. 'Cause we don't have to talk about
Yeah, we
Blade
should
Runner.
talk about why you're here as
Right,
well.
yeah. Which, I have a funny story about it, though. I was in Kentucky for a cousin's wedding, and this was, like, after the wedding. This is, like, a day after or something. The whole family just, like, split up to, like, go check out Louisville and, do tourist stuff.
Right.
So, near the end of the day, they were all getting together to go to dinner or something, and I had already gone to dinner with Cassie on my own. So there's a movie theater like literally up the street from the hotel we were staying at, and so I was like, well, we need to go see Blade Runner. We just have to. I had no idea how long it was, but it's like 3.5 hours long.
Yeah.
So my whole family knows that I'm going to go see this movie instead of like going to dinner with them. And they're fine with it. There's just nothing wrong about that. But I go to go see it, and I come back to talk to everyone,
Yeah.
and they're like, "So how was it?" And I was like, "Well, it's like the best movie ever made,
Oh yeah.
but everyone's gonna hate it.
Yeah.
You don't go see it
Yeah.
because I know like
Takes a certain type of person.
yeah, and none of them would have liked it. I'm pretty sure. It's
Yeah.
just not. It's 3.5 hours long. It's super super slow.
Yeah, it definitely breathes.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the best way to describe that movie. Is just it breathes.
Like
You've
if-
got these long shots, and a shot progresses, and it's got its own little story. I know that sounds really dumb, but
No, it makes
no,
sense.
really. I mean, the cinematographer, God, it was brilliant.
It's probably the same reason you like it is probably why a lot of people hate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like really slow. Like I
I do
remember.
too.
I do too.
I love
I love
shit.
slow movies.
I remember we used to have movie nights occasionally,
Yeah.
and the last time we did it, it was like I buried the fucking movie night thing. I think permanently because I showed you Hugo.
Ooh,
I showed you and Gloria
Dude,
Hugo.
I love that movie though.
Very, very long movie, very, very slow movie.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not sure why. Like, all my favorite movies are like that. They're all just really long and really slow. And that's exactly the two things that almost everyone hates about a movie.
Yeah, they're like, it's just too slow.
It was
Or a
so
show,
long.
a show
So
like a
slow.
TV show. Like I've heard people say that about
Oh, I love it.
even like Breaking Bad, which to me Breaking Bad starts out like, bam, you're in this
Yeah.
shit like deep
Yeah.
already. But people
Kinda.
were like, I don't know, I just kind of started out slow, like so I stopped watching it. It's like,
You got to give it
What?
time.
yeah, you gotta try it. I mean,
And if
give it a
everyone on
good
the
try.
planet is telling you to watch it, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Literally, I've told everybody I
Yeah.
know.
It
to
has
watch
to
that
be
show.
paying off as if it is going to be drawn out, it has to be paying off like
Right.
at consistent points. Because
Yeah.
I started to
that
watch
hit.
Westworld,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't paying off enough.
Really?
The times that it was happening way too.
I've heard some really good stuff about that show, though.
I liked it a lot.
Me too.
Yeah, I
Just
don't
my
know.
personal
And
opinion.
it's interesting because it's basically a tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
No, it like literally essentially is.
Really?
That's
Pretty-
where they got all their influence from.
Like all the characters, they have their own scripts that they run through every day and everything. Like, it's like
Yeah.
interacting with NPCs in a real world. They're just like robots.
Which they don't explicitly
Yeah.
explain initially. I was having a hard time, like, what is happening?
It's pretty
Yeah, like,
mind-boggling.
is this
at
like
first.
a virtual reality thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then no.
Well, that leads us right into why Connor's even here.
Right.
Oh,
I
segue.
did that after.
Why are you here?
I don't know. Why
Yeah.
am I here?
Yeah, why
we
are
can
you here,
talk
man?
about games. We can talk about game design. Talk about my game.
Yeah.
No, when
I
we're
think
saying
that's-
game design,
I think
are
that's
we
what we're here for.
meaning- Are we meaning video game?
No.
Or are we talking, what kind of game?
Well, I'll tell you that my entire life, all I wanted to do is make video games.
Yeah.
And I think my mom's still kind of a little upset about me just making tabletop games because that
Really?
was like, yeah, because I went to art school and I'm going there for game design. She's like, yeah, he's you know how moms are with,
Yeah.
with their sons.
For sure.
He's finally doing it. And then I come out of the other side and I'm not making video games. So
Mhm.
she's like, oh, well, you know.
Oh, we tried.
we tried. Because she knows that the tabletop games, they're not going to sell like a video game
Yeah.
would.
Right.
You know, there aren't jobs necessarily for that kind of a thing.
But you'll
But,
work for Hasbro.
Yeah.
right. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. Or I mean, the dream place, like the Pixar of tabletops, is Wizards of the Coast.
Right.
Obviously, that's Dungeons and Dragons and Magic
Right.
the Gathering. Those are like the only two tabletop
But
games
two of the
that
greatest
people play.
games
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah, definitely.
I couldn't name a third one, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
I only know of those
Catan.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who makes Catan?
I don't know, but it's a part of. There's like a whole German or European like tabletop scene that Catan and all of those games come out of for some reason.
Right.
Carcassonne. I don't know if you played Carcassonne. That's another one. There's like 100 different games that came out of there. But
Really?
yeah, but no, the reason why I went down the tabletop route. Well, there's a couple different reasons. The most apparent one is I'm not good at math at all. I've
Seems
never
weird.
I've never been good at math ever, and I went to art school, and it's not like there's a lot of kids going to art school that are good at math,
That's where you go when
particularly.
you're not good at math.
Exactly, yeah.
That's literally what I tell people. No, I'm not good at math. I went to art school.
And not that you need to be a wizard or anything to
Right.
to
One
make video
plus
games.
7.
Yeah.
Right. But you need to have some at least some. You need to be adept at it to code.
For sure.
To do programming stuff. And so I was at the point in school where I could have either spent the next 3 years learning how to code, which I had zero skill in.
No, that'd be
Zero skill.
a torturous road too.
Absolutely.
Learn how to code.
Especially for
Yeah.
someone who isn't good at math. Like just
And most people
feel
going in to
terrible.
learn coding have probably been doing it by themselves already for like years
Since
as like
childhood.
a hobby.
For
Yeah.
sure. And I think there were some kids in my class I could tell that were in the same boat as me, but were having a harder time separating from, like, my dream's video games. I don't want to make board games and card games. Yeah, and so they kind of got lost a little bit. But it's not even that, though, really, because to learn game design, the fastest way to do it is to just make tabletop games, especially if you don't know how to code. Because you need to know how to code to at least get started making some, like, mock-ups and something that's you can play test if it's a digital game.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's a tabletop game, all you need is, like, paper and maybe dice.
Yeah, it's a lot more engaging, I guess.
Yeah, so I just wanted to... I wasn't going to school to learn how to code. And I knew that. And the way that... We can talk about it. We can get into it. But the way the department was heading, it wasn't like I was going to get that information from them anyway. It was all going to be self-driven if I wanted to learn how to code. And I just totally didn't want to
Seems like something they should make a good point of before you go apply.
Yeah,
like a syllabus or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. A lot at the Kansas City Art Institute in particular, a lot of it's self-driven, as it should be. That's like the number one lesson I learned from going to art school is that like no one's going to hold your hand after this, and not even during it. For some kids, for me at least. So if you want to pursue whatever your passion is, you have to do it on your own accord. You can't expect to have someone, like, you have to set your own deadlines. It sounds super boring. It sounds like the opposite of, like,
a rigid
art.
school.
Right.
Yeah, of something so, I don't know, boring. But no, it's like imperative. It's imperative to make goals for yourself and stuff like that. Like, it's like if you have a job, if you have, like, a day job where you have to, it's like tedious, but you're constantly doing the thing that you have to be doing, you'll enter into a flow state and you won't even think about what you're doing, and then the day is just over at some point, you know.
Yeah.
Not so much you guys, like, working with people, you know, like customer service stuff, because that comes and goes.
It can.
I've definitely felt it before.
Yeah.
Where you're like, it's just a great day. Everyone's great today. Or, like, it's so easy to interact with people today instead of, like,
well, that's interesting.
being turned off by, like, every other person.
Someone else.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have so much to do with you as it just getting lucky with the people you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's definitely a big mix.
Yeah.
It's luck.
But, like, I load packages for my job. So, like, there's no luck involved. It's just whether or not I want to be doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's completely on me.
Right.
To enter into that state where I'm not even thinking about it anymore.
So how did you go from video games to board games? Because I'm sure that happened while you were in school going, oh, crap, I don't know math.
So I should explain that. The Art Institute, I went there for painting initially. There was a point where I started to pick up on illustration and painting after high school. I went to Longview Community College. And so I was, like, okay at illustration, but then after going there, I actually hooked up with this guy, Dan Renault. Everyone, if anyone on the podcast, I don't know where's that camera. If you're thinking about going to school for art or something, you should go, and if you're in the Kansas City area, you have to go to Longview and you have to take Dan Renault's classes because he's the king.
Okay.
He was like my mentor, essentially. I don't think I would be pursuing art if it wasn't for him.
Really?
Yeah. And he cares. He actually cares about the people that he has and works with. But yeah, I started to fall in love with painting and stuff when I was in there with him. So it came to a point where I had to either go to school for game design or for painting, and I chose painting. And that was awful. That turned out to be horrible. So I transferred over from painting into game design, and the game design department, it was extremely new there. They knew, like, at the Art Institute, they knew that there was a need, there was a want for that kind of a thing. Right. And that they could get a lot of students, you know, that would have normally otherwise not have attended, you know, if they had a game design department. And I think they might have rushed into it a little too quick. Because they didn't really have the teachers, like, there was maybe 1 or 2 teachers of like the 5 teachers I had that actually had game design experience. So, yeah, there were there's one teacher in particular that wouldn't show up. He wouldn't tell people when he wouldn't show up.
Why?
And then class would just suddenly be canceled and no one would know why. And we would all be there and then we would have to leave and go home.
So you're just getting fucked out of money at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then and that's not the worst thing that happened. But we got this great teacher and it seemed like everything was going to turn around at some point. That was, I think it was either the first semester of junior year or the second semester of sophomore year. And then he got really, really sick. And so he just like suddenly wasn't in class and the school didn't know what to do, and he was so sick. He's fine now.
Oh, that's good.
He's
I was
fine.
Waiting for that. Like,
yeah, I know. No, he's not
dead now?
dead or he's fine. But he wouldn't be able to return until the next semester, and so everyone's waiting for a substitute, and no substitute came, and we legit didn't have a teacher of any kind, not even a substitute for
you
almost
probably
3
don't
months.
get like credits refunded or anything like that, do you? For
No.
Nothing. They're like, well, that's sometimes people suck.
Luck of the draw.
Yeah.
And at the Art Institute, a lot of time, I mean, people are switching degrees constantly, like I did. And so the most I got out of the painting department was just like a credit. Like if I had taken just like a normal elective or something, I got like a credit for my, and your department's course is like 5 hours, like 3 days a week. So it's not like, it's like having a lab or something. So it's not like it's not an elective. It's like a hardcore class you're taking. Right. But yeah, we didn't have a teacher for 3 months. So we lost basically all of the students in the department and stuff like that. And then we finally got a teacher to come in for like a month and a half for that semester. And then we started to get teachers consistently, but all of them, they didn't have they were rushed in because they needed a teacher as quickly as possible.
They just needed a warm body.
Yeah,
to say they had an actual teacher in a class, I guess.
Right. They were at a critical, I mean, they knew that it was bad, obviously. They were looking for someone and it took them almost 3 months to find somebody. So the people that they ended up giving us were like the first person that they could reach out to and get in there. Anyway, that was a long point, but it's a important point because I realized that not even school was going to be able to provide me with a push. Like there's no push to work on what I want to work on coming from anywhere other than if I provide it myself.
Right.
So, like I was saying, I could spend the next 3 years learning how to code, or I could learn the next 3 years learning game design.
Right.
And it was at the point where, like, why am I even in school? Like, they're not even really teaching me. They're having problems just keeping the department alive. Like, so not a teacher isn't going to teach me. The school doesn't seem to care all that much. So I'm not getting...
Okay.
Yeah, you can do this all for free at home,
Absolutely.
basically.
Yeah, and that's like the main... So the main lesson I learned is that I have to drive myself. And it's either going to be something that I don't necessarily want to do something that I thought I've always wanted to do, or it's going to be the thing that I'm actually passionate about, which is game design.
Yeah.
So I can apply game design to digital games if I want to work with a coder in the future, or if I want to learn that myself, which I probably could. I'm making it seem like it's impossible that I could learn how to code, but I could.
It's more a pain in the ass than anything.
Yeah, and I don't want to.
Tedious thing.
Yeah, I don't want to waste time learning how to do that when I don't already know how to design. Yeah, so I just wanted to get straight to design.
Kind of hone in on what the thing that will probably be the most useful for you.
Yeah,
overall.
the core thing. The core thing that you can take anywhere.
Right.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so
tell us a little bit about your game.
Death Roll?
Yeah, Death Roll.
So Death Roll is a
Roll.
tabletop RPG, and I'm pretty sure a lot of your listeners don't know what that is. And
you
so
might
if
be
they
surprised. I don't know.
yeah,
I
they
have
might.
no idea, to be honest.
So Dungeons and Dragons is like the most obvious example. And so, if you don't know what that is,
go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Get out from
know what
underneath
that
that rock, because holy crap.
Yeah.
well, I feel like it's interesting. I don't think people like 5 years ago would have known what it is. Now it seems like I'm hearing people say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that." But
Yeah. It's almost like becoming like a retro, like cool. Or
In a
doesn't
way.
it seem like
It's
Yeah,
one of
it's
those like
coming back.
Stranger Things effects.
Right.
like a 90s
I was
thing
gonna say
that's
that
coming
too.
back,
And I was like, you know
80s
that
thing.
game they play in Stranger
Yeah.
Things?
Yeah, there you go. Now
That's Dungeons and Dragons.
everyone's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Right, yeah,
the
now they
Demogorgon
get it.
and yeah.
They're like,
Otherwise,
oh yeah,
it
I've
was
always
that-
loved that.
Yeah.
It was with that weird thing that 80s nerds would play.
Right.
And,
Real
and
nerds.
They wouldn't date a woman until they were like in their 30s.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's kind of the stigma you get with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it used to be more of a nerd thing. Now it's just like pretty, like it's more common for sure. Like there's people that play it than
Yeah, I
to be
mean,
like
video games used to be a nerd
Yeah.
thing.
It's
That's
true.
how all good things start off as like, no, that's a nerd thing. And then
Yeah.
people
That's
realize
kinda
it's
true.
cool. and they're
Electronic
Right.
music.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Electronic music was
Exactly.
nerdy, and now everybody listens to EDM and shit.
Yeah.
Well, I bet video games kind of did a big push on that as well, because if you think about it, like Skyrim
Yeah.
is exactly an RPG, almost set up the way that those like a tabletop RPG
Yeah.
would be. You got to do character creation right in the beginning. You pick your class, you pick your race, you pick your color, you pick age, you pick everything, you pick what kind of stats you
Yeah.
want to start with that are
Right.
stronger,
What you wanna
And that's-
build on.
That's exactly what a tabletop RPG does. Granted, there's a lot more math, and you have to roll some dice, and
Right.
but yeah, it's,
That's the main point of playing. The thing that will make people not want to play a tabletop game, it happens, and I love tabletop games, but the thing that will make you not want to play it is having to learn the rules, obviously. And when you
Yeah.
play a video game, you don't have to learn the rules.
right.
It's true.
Yeah. So, and in a tabletop game, you have to most of the time you have to constantly keep referring back to the rules to make sure that things are being played correctly.
Yeah.
But the thing with tabletop games, like with any tabletop game you might have played, Monopoly or whatever, people constantly make up their own house rules.
Right.
They constantly ignore rules,
Yeah.
replace rules.
That's where the fun comes in.
Yeah,
A lot of the
exactly.
They're modding the game.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So, the basis of a tabletop RPG is you and your friends just sit around to tell a story. That's really all it is. You create characters that interact in the story that's being told. So, if all that other stuff isn't important to you, then just throw it out.
Right.
And you can't do that. In a game like Skyrim, you have to abide by their rules.
Right.
But and so that's what's so freeing about a tabletop RPG. It's good. You could imagine a game like Skyrim in tabletop form. You
Right.
don't have to be the Dragonborn.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to. You
can
can
be
just
the-
go around
You can
killing.
be the maid. In the,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be that guy. I just walk around doing that all day
That'd
long.
be the whole game. Just you saying that.
Or you can just be Lydia. And be like, I'll carry whatever you got. Hand it over.
Just the pack mule. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So yeah, and I mean that's really where my interest in tabletop games and RPGs in general came from, was playing Dungeons and Dragons for the first time.
Yeah.
Because
How long ago was that?
4 years ago. 4 years
So were
ago.
you
So pretty
like
recently.
in school kind of at that time, or?
Yeah, no, I was in school during
Oh.
that time, and so
That's one hell of an epiphany.
yeah,
You're
it
like,
is.
oh, this is great. I don't want to
Damn it.
code. This works.
Yeah, it does. Like things started to align perfectly, I guess, in that way.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Except for school not really working out, but
Yeah, hey, dude, at least you figured it out before you had
It seems
like.
like the more common thing than
Yeah.
people actually finishing school or
Yeah.
finishing it what they thought they were going in for, especially.
most
I
of the
don't know anyone
dropouts
who did that.
in an art school are dropping out because they realize that they don't need it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have done that.
It's a
in
really
school.
expensive wake up call
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I literally,
How was
I
your
wish.
experience?
God, it was good because we had free equipment. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's nice.
background. I went
Having
to film, I went
Photoshop
to
for
film
free
school.
is
My
nice.
degree's in directing and
bet.
writing.
Yes.
So directing, writing, and film, that's what I went to school for.
Cool.
And I have the degree, and it's all sitting in a frame, and it looks really nice. And
that's
I'm not doing film. So, but I would like to. But the thing was, name dropping here, I met Guillermo del Toro.
Holy
and
shit.
I was like, going into my senior year of high school, and I was just visiting a friend, and we went and saw a movie, and Guillermo was there. It was really
so cool.
It blew my mind. He
Yeah.
is my favorite director, so I'm just like that, and I kind of malfunctioned for a minute.
Yeah.
But I actually was like, "Excuse me, Mr. Del Toro," and he's like, "Oh, yes," and I told him I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, yes, Guillermo del Toro." That's the way he talks. He's very Mexican. But he, I told him, I'm like, I'm in high school right now. I'm trying to decide what I want to do, but I want to become a director. What do I do? He literally sat there with me for like 15 minutes asking me questions about what kind of films I wanted to make, what I wanted to do.
Awesome.
That's really
Blew
cool.
my mind.
What a sweet guy.
Exactly. And he finally said, if you have the money to go to film school, make a film. Don't
Yeah,
waste
that's
your
so
money.
true.
It's the
Some
best
wise
way
words.
to learn
Yeah.
this art form is to just do it and fail a lot and keep going. And
Yeah.
well, I didn't have the money, so I had to get loans, so I went to film school. But that's kind of what we ended up doing, because all the classes, I think I took literally one class in all of school that was worth a damn whatsoever. The rest of
Right.
them were all like, well, this is okay.
Yep.
But it was all working on projects and getting things done and kind of figuring out how the sets worked and
Get your workflow going.
exactly. So I can see kind of the same thing with that.
It's an expensive lesson to learn.
Yeah, yes it is. Yes it is.
That's the thing about tabletop games, though, is that, especially with RPGs, is all you need, which doesn't seem like you would ever make any money, but all you need for a tabletop RPG is just the PDF.
True.
Like, the players have the dice, they have the pencils, they have,
right.
if it needs cards, they have the cards.
Don't a lot of people make their own? They draw their own like sets for it, or like the map itself. Like a lot of that's self-made anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
it's pretty-
If that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Hell, there are people that have built desks or tables that with like
Yep.
cutouts for your cups and
Cool. Like
dice
a big poker
boxes,
table, but
a big
for
poker
D&D.
table, but then they put like a
So
TV in the middle of it, and then they just boot their computer up on it, and that's where their play set
that's
is.
cool.
So it's
really
perfect
cool.
size for all of your characters and your
I want
miniatures.
to play D&D.
You should. It's an awesome game.
But
love
only
to
on
play
that
D&D.
table.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll do a let's play the next time we do.
It'll
this.
be a 10-hour long stream.
Yeah.
And we'll get nowhere.
Yeah. Jimmy will be like, I want to drink.
Can I drink? Can I drink that?
Absolutely.
Is that an option?
Do whatever you want.
And then you roll a 1, and then you're hammered.
Right.
So yeah, I get that's a good segue. So good job, guys.
Really hitting the nail on the head.
I
on
feel
that.
like, gosh, I really like doing this.
You guys are so smart.
Also, I should probably point out that I'm extremely sick. I don't know if anybody can tell.
Yeah.
But
And I got him sick. That's why
It's
our
that time of
voices
year.
are like a
much
register lower.
Yeah. So I should just point that out right now. But
It's all good.
what's our segue?
The
here,
segue?
bud?
The segue is when I first started playing D&D, I realized that if you get past, like, because the first little, like, hurdle you have to get past is that this doesn't matter because it's so abstract. Like, it's just based off of your imagination, the way you play.
Right.
So it doesn't seem meaningful to sit down and just imagine how something's going to look,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
But once you get past that and you're playing with the right people, you get sucked into it because you realize that, unlike Skyrim, you can literally be anyone you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You can do anything you want to do to anyone you want to do it to, or anything you want to do it to.
Right.
Your character can say anything you want him to say to whoever.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, in Skyrim, like, you can't kill a certain character because they're imperative to the
Yeah, the main storyline. or
to
something.
progressing the story. But, like, in Dungeons and Dragons or a tabletop, you can kill whoever you can get your hands on
And then it changes the story probably.
dynamically. Yeah, in a very dramatic way,
Yeah.
that matters. So, my game, Death Roll, is a competitive version of that. So, almost always a tabletop RPG is a cooperative experience.
Right.
All the players are sitting down to tell the most interesting, funny story they can together. And that's still true in Death Roll, except there's two different types of players in a tabletop. There's the people that are controlling characters, which everyone's familiar with if they played Skyrim or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the GM. And the GM is the one that most people don't understand, or it seems so confusing that they wouldn't want to try it. And
That's
essentially,
probably the most fun part, though.
it can be, yeah. And most, like, immediately that's what I wanted to do, because you're basically just a game designer.
Yeah.
You're a game designer and a writer if you're the GM, because you're in charge of all the rules, and you're in charge of at least setting up the story that's going to happen, all the characters that are going to be in the story.
Do you do like the dialogue between like NPCs or kind of thing? So you kind of make
You
guide,
play like
you can
90
guide the characters.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And then and the most key thing of being the GM is guiding the players toward some kind of objective.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like I said, they can do anything they want. So they can say,
So
fuck whatever you wanted us to do. We can just hang out in the tavern.
the
and
whole game can just be like gambling or something.
Exactly, and then get arrested and then breaking out of prison. But like, as the
And then the GM sitting there like,
fuck, now I have to
hate
create a
you.
prison for them
I
to go
hate
to.
all of
So
you
it's a
right
constant
now.
back and forth almost. Between,
Yeah, exactly. It's a super dynamic way of telling a story. It's constantly changing. The GM can't possibly think of every scenario that the players might get into, because they can literally get into any scenario, within the logic of whatever game you're playing.
Yeah.
So
You just break the rules like totally. and get
yeah,
away with it,
exactly. And not the rules, but like
Or the like
the path,
yeah, the rules of like the world basically. Like you can't just
or what's important in
Yeah.
that world at that time. Yeah, there might be some like doomsday event that the GM wants you to be concerned with, but if they aren't properly getting the players to be concerned with it, then they don't care. There's no reason
It's
for
not-
them to care.
there's no downside to not following those rules. so it's like,
Exactly.
why would I?
You got to
basically
discourage
not
the
make
guy. You got to discourage the guy who you walk up to the NPC that is the quest giver, and then as he's starting to talk, he's like,
And
"Can I
they
stab
kill
him in
him.
the face,
Of
please?"
course you can.
Yeah.
Because that's
An
all
option.
anyone ever want. Like, especially when I was younger, when I first started to play the Elder Scrolls games, all I wanted to do was just kill every single person
That's
I came
exactly
across,
how I
and
played
take
it.
everything.
Yeah.
Take as much as possible. Just have a giant treasure hoard. Of stuff.
Yeah.
And tabletops are the same way, except you can actually, the story will progress, not in the way that, the GM wants it to, but there will be like, somehow there will be some kind of finite end to that story.
Right.
From just going around and randomly murdering as many people as possible. But I was going to say is the competitive version of that that Death Roll tries to do is add structure, more structure to all of that. So if you do go off the beaten path, there will be things in place that will get your characters killed. And so like the GM isn't just like the person that sets up the world and makes sure everyone's following the rules and going down a path. They're also the enemy. So they're constantly trying to kill your characters in any possible way that they can.
Right.
And so usually that's a problem in tabletops, because there's, like I was saying, the rules can be broken constantly. So the GM is able to set up in most tabletops whatever they want, whatever kind of story they want. They can put in as many impossibly large monsters that can't be defeated as they want.
Yeah.
Right.
But in Death Roll they can't. There's a system. It's similar to character creation, to make your character. You can't just make whoever you want in tabletops for the most part, because you can't have someone who's so overpowered that they can do anything right off the bat.
Right.
They have to level up to start to do stuff like that. So creating adventure is similar in that way.
Right.
So you can only add so much of this type of whatever, blank, trap, monster, and it can only be this difficult. Like this specific trap can only be, this powerful. It might be super powerful, but that might be the only trap that you have available.
Right.
So where do you plant that in a story to get the most use out of it? If the objective is to kill all the other players.
So that's the GM's kind of goal in this game, is to murder everybody.
That's their ultimate goal, yeah.
That is really cool, because I was reading on your website that it's this combination of, well, here I have it. How did you word this? Because I was like, how does that even work? The competitive aspect of Death Roll comes from the degree of difficulty all the players, including the GM, must overcome in order to achieve a positive narrative outcome for themselves. So I was kind of like, what does that even mean?
It's pretty wordy.
It is wordy, but I see what you're saying now. So that makes a lot of sense, and I like that the GM has a goal other than, so here's my story, guys.
Right.
They have their own.
There's real stakes. There's winning and losing conditions in Death Roll. Like, if all the players' characters die, then it's game over. The GM wins.
Ah.
Okay.
So, yeah. But the struggle for the GM then is creating an adventure that's going to be challenging enough to get all those characters killed. And so the characters, or the player's goal, is to just survive long enough to figure out what something called the grand scheme is, which would be like, in Star Wars, it would be like building the Death Star and like ruling the galaxy as the Empire. So figuring out what that is, and then eventually by the end of an adventure, which is like a single playthrough with all the characters, you'll get to that Death Star event and then either succeed in preventing it or failing by getting all the...
Failing at the very last second.
Yeah, getting all the remaining characters killed at that point. So, yeah.
I don't know why, but do you guys remember that show Reboot?
No.
I vaguely remember
Yeah,
the name of that.
kind of sounds
It
familiar.
was like that weird CGI. It came on right before Dragon Ball Z on Toonami when we were kids. So,
maybe not then.
I do remember
Well,
it now.
it was
actually.
just this like little computer town, and they had like one guy who would jump in and play a game, and if the user won the game, then like a section of the town would be destroyed. But if the computer guy
Like a real
won
town.
the game, yeah, but it was within the computer.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's kind of, I don't know why that reminded me of that.
The
I'm
stakes.
digressing.
The stakes.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like,
You can cut that out, Jeremy. It sounded more profound when in my head.
I think it sounded cool, man.
you're doing a good
sound
job.
really
It sounded
cool.
really
Thanks,
awesome,
man.
dude. You guys are a little more into, like, or at least you know a little bit more about this stuff than I do. So.
But you
Well,
love
I'm a huge
Skyrim.
nerd.
Dude, I don't know why. I love Skyrim.
Everyone loves Skyrim.
He
Yeah,
makes
I
fun of
don't
me.
know
He
anyway.
makes fun of me for liking Skyrim, but I love Skyrim.
I love Skyrim too, and
That's
but
such a
I
good
feel
game.
bad for loving it.
Well, yeah.
Why?
Because it's like
We're gonna have to digress here in a second. But go ahead.
nothing in it nothing in it is
if that
as
makes sense.
interesting as it should be. Like, all of the individual parts are just like the bare minimum for an
Yeah.
interesting game. Like, the combat, it just barely works,
Just barely.
and it's just barely fun. And that's everything in the entire game.
That's really fair.
That's a really good way to put
But-
it. Game.
fair.
But
Damn.
since everything is at that level, like, there's nothing in the game. Well, the voice acting is atrocious. But
That's the
You mean
best
the
part.
5 voice actors that they
Yeah.
hired? Because you can hear every person. It's like, no, that was that guy.
Right.
and I don't want to.
Yeah, I just talked
I don't
to
want
you.
to say I can make a better Skyrim or something.
Right.
But it's just it's addicting. Like, Bethesda
Oh, yeah.
knows how to make an addicting RPG.
Yeah, for sure.
And it doesn't have to be good. It just has to be good enough. And Skyrim is that. But I love the Elder Scrolls. I loved.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys played the other ones.
did.
Oblivion, Morrowind.
Oblivion and
yeah.
Morrowind, and not the
I
other
liked
two.
Oblivion.
Yeah, the other two. I was,
Those are a little too old.
yeah.
Yeah.
I even did Elder Scrolls Online for a little bit.
Me too.
Really?
It
Tried it.
was,
Never did.
It was that really. Yeah, you explained it. It's-
MMOs are closer to tabletop RPGs
Right.
than
Right.
something like Skyrim would be.
Like World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
and stuff like
exactly.
that. Okay.
World of Warcraft actually presented Wizards of the Coast a huge problem because tabletop Dungeons and Dragons was already not doing well, and then when World of Warcraft came out,
They were screwed.
it completely tanked. And so people hate the 4th edition of Dungeons and Dragons because they grabbed a bunch of stuff from World of Warcraft
Oh,
and
really?
like jammed
Oh,
it in.
Did they really?
Tried to make those
Wow.
people come back.
I can't. I
Yeah,
couldn't.
I only
I couldn't
played
tell you
5e.
exactly what it is, but I've heard that, and it's like a common thing. Everyone hates 4th edition for that
Interesting.
reason. But yeah, what were we talking about? Skyrim.
Skyrim.
You tell me why
Barely
you
enough.
like Skyrim, then, Mister.
That was one of the first. I don't know. That was one of the first couple of the like open world games that I ever played. Actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I didn't really know anything about RPGs, and but I did play a little bit of Oblivion, but not much, because it was right as Skyrim was like coming out. Are you fixing his stand? That's
Yeah.
fine. We can
Thank you.
make that a thing real quick.
Sure. Is it slowly sliding down?
Go ahead and sit where you're going to be sitting.
Okay.
Done.
I can read.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh,
That's all right.
You got it.
It sounds like it reminds me of like a show where the boom guy is like getting bumped into. So it sounds like.
Okay.
All right, is that close enough to him that he can be heard well?
I'll scoot over a little bit. How about that?
Yeah.
Well,
or am I too far out of the?
That right about there would be good.
Okay.
That's perfect.
That's fine. Anyway, what I was gonna say is that
Cool.
Yeah, I like it.
like Ocarina of Time is open world.
Yeah.
True.
Right.
It is.
I guess it was.
It's
yeah.
just a matter of perspective. The more open it
Skyrim
gets,
was huge
Yeah.
to
Right.
me. It still is. I feel like it's
Yeah.
still pretty big.
But I don't know if you guys played Ocarina of Time when it came out, but
Of course.
it was huge. Like Hyrule Field
When it
was,
came out,
was
yeah.
gigantic. I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
incredible.
true. Yeah.
And then like the first Halo, when you land on the Halo, you get out for the first time.
Yeah, just drive around. I remember looking up at the sky for like minutes.
Yeah,
Just like,
and then
what?
realizing that like if you were to move forward,
Yeah.
you could like go all the
Exactly.
way
It's
around
one
back
big-
to where you were.
Is it really?
Well, that's
Yeah.
It's like
it's the inside of the ring.
yeah.
I didn't.
It's
I
a
don't remember
Halo,
that.
Dan.
I don't
It's the name
remember
of the
that.
game.
You can see like continents and stuff if you look directly up. Like
I don't think I ever realized that you were in the Halo.
yeah,
Dude.
that was the whole game.
that's what it was called.
What were you
what it was
doing at
called.
that time?
What were you
dude?
playing?
I think
this
I
whole
was
time?
probably pretty young when I was playing that.
That's
and I
true.
probably
Yeah.
didn't
That was
understand
like
it.
OG Xbox.
I obsessed
yeah.
over Halo though,
Yeah.
so,
So
I just
did I.
started
That's why I
picking
bought
up
an
on that
Xbox.
stuff.
I was like 7 years old when
I
Halo
trekked
came out.
through snow to like go to my friend's house who got an Xbox for Christmas
Right,
on like
right.
the next day.
I
and
did
we
the same thing.
We beat the game over and over again for like an hour or so,
Right.
or
Yeah.
Could have
many
played
hours.
on all of the
Yeah.
yeah, we got up to
difficulty settings.
legendary and that
I
was
played
fun.
that shit for days.
Before
It was
It was the best.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was cool.
you make your own achievements.
I guess that is true though. I never really thought about it like that.
But yeah, just like I feel some people maybe like you are like, well, I don't, I'm not as familiar with this kind of stuff as you are. If you have played Skyrim, which it seems like everyone has played
Yeah.
Skyrim.
Yeah.
If you're into games, like, don't play Death Roll if you're not into games. Like, don't play games if you're not into games, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you're into games, you've probably played Skyrim. And if you played Skyrim, then you would love Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
You could get into a tabletop game. Because it's just that, but anything is possible. And that's just what makes it so awesome.
You just need
Yeah.
to find the right group of people to play it with. Probably.
Yeah.
It's pretty key.
That's probably hard.
Yeah, that's really... and
It's
it's
probably super hard for you.
it's really hard to find the right group, and then it's even harder to get everyone together.
Yeah.
And to get them together consistently so that everyone
So you don't
is like,
forget.
fuck this, we're not
Yeah.
going to play this anymore.
Right.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
to get together like once a week or once every other week or something to keep it going.
God, that would
Yeah,
be
because you'll
Which
forget
really sucks.
storyline things, and you gotta
Yeah.
write everything down.
Take
You have to have
lots
your
of
own
notes.
quest log. Yeah, lots
Some
of
people
notes.
like play over Skype and shit, but it's a tabletop game. Let's
Yeah.
just play it. Let's just play it together.
Well, you can play it on
That's the
Tabletop
point.
Simulator. That's kind of fun.
Sure. Yeah. But it's like playing any game on
Yeah.
Right,
that.
right.
You would rather just play it in person with your friends.
Yeah, Tabletop Simulator, guys, is just basically this game that you can download on Steam. I think it's free, isn't it?
No, it's not free.
All right,
it's like
it's-
$30 actually.
Is it really?
Oh.
Yeah.
I was gifted it, so.
Everything's free.
But it has like tons of actual like board games and things like that you can play just with your mouse. And just users use it, but it's like a virtual table, so D&D works really well on there. And that's what you were doing your playtest for this game on.
Yeah, and it's really helpful because, like, you're not always, like you guys are saying, it's hard to find people that actually want to play a game that's actually already been designed. It's almost impossible to find people who actually want to play a game that barely works.
That's still in beta.
Yeah,
Right.
that they need to actually, they have to play a game that barely works, and they all have to be in the same room
Yeah.
together.
Jesus.
It's like almost impossible.
Yeah.
So I just took it online for that reason.
That's pretty cool.
And you can play with any, like, you can kind of like meet up with random people if you go to like a game shop or something, like
Yeah.
around town. But online, if you just go to like boardgamegeek.com, that's a website, or on Reddit or anywhere, you can find groups that are more than willing to play test with you. And they're complete strangers.
That's cool.
That's really
You can just
cool.
hook up with them on Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, we just took a quick break. We had to get some fresh tea and get a little fresh air. It gets kind of like musty
little
up
muggy.
here. Yeah.
Musty.
It does.
Kinda
It's
like
very
that.
musty.
Oh, that's funny.
Have you guys ever been to Jaegers?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The caves. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
I did laser
for
tag
people that
once.
don't know, there's this cave, like a series of caves, and
Kind of a weird thing. Now that you're
it's
saying it out loud.
extremely weird thing. And in one of these caves is a paintball arena
And laser tag.
and laser tag inside a cave. And I remember as a kid,
It's
like,
so cool.
oh Jesus, it stinks.
But then you
It's
learn to
so
like the
musty.
smell.
Yeah,
And you're
but
like,
you
Yeah.
kind of like it by the time you get out of there.
yeah.
Yeah, that place is awesome.
It is awesome.
We used to paintball up there all the time.
I've never
Yep,
been
me
there.
too.
Yeah, people who
Really?
are not Kansas City natives.
Yeah, I have no idea what we're
We have
talking
these
about.
crazy caves just in the middle of like North Kansas City that
Yeah.
has
Like
like
5 minutes from
businesses.
downtown.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes from downtown, and it has
Yeah.
like businesses and paintball arenas, and it's the
Government
weirdest
facilities,
thing.
yeah.
It's
It's
super
so
weird.
weird, but it's
Scientologists.
Really cool.
A cult or
Well,
two, maybe.
Right, right. That's funny.
Potentially.
What were we just talking about?
Okay,
before
the
thing we were talking about?
premise
Yeah.
of what the conversation was is shame.
Yeah.
And I've noticed recently, really recently, that the really the only thing that motivates me to do anything significant or to do it very well is based off of shame.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling bad, if I'm feeling like what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You should be doing that. That's what's important. Not playing games, not whatever, watching Netflix, not whatever stupid thing that you're wasting time doing. You should be working on something creative. And it's
Yeah.
not even just creative work either. Like when I'm at work, at my job, it's like, man, I really don't want to let these people down. I don't want them to think that I can't do this.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm better than that. I know how good I am at this thing, or how good I could be at this thing if I just cared a little more.
Right.
You know, so
I feel that.
that just that hits me so hard with like everything, like literally everything that's happening. And just I'm starting to pick it up.
That sounds very painful. All the time.
Well, maybe not to that extent,
Yeah.
but it's definitely the biggest motivator. It might be like maybe the single motivator that makes me like get up and do something
Right.
better
Yeah.
or do something
It's your
important.
drive. Yeah.
Yeah, or try to get better. Try to, and it's all like, it's not coming from a healthy place because all I'm wanting to do is make sure people don't think I'm a loser. That's really what it is.
That's the best
Like,
place to
I
draw
feel
from.
like I know. I feel like a loser, and I'm pretty sure everybody else probably feels the same. way.
If you ask anyone nowadays, they're like, "Yeah, I've been in a pretty deep depression for like the past 10 years. Things are looking good."
Yeah.
But
That's good to remind people that they're not alone in this.
It's very
Because
common.
Well,
I
yeah.
definitely feel that all.
I think it's
all the
probably
time.
at least as common or more common nowadays.
it made me feel better
be
to hear you
depressed.
guys say it.
Right.
Dude. Yeah, like feeling inferior to people
Right.
because you see them doing something that you think is cooler than what you're doing, or more important, or they're doing something with their lives.
It's not even that I feel inferior to other people. It's just that like I'm ashamed because I know
You know that you can.
I know
do-
better.
You know your
I know
potential.
better.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? I know what I should be doing, and I'm
Yeah.
not doing it.
Well, and depression can kind of hold you back from that because then you get into your funks and you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Why
want
am
to
I
do
even
this
doing
today.
this? Oh my god, I
You're
think
just
that
exhausted for
all
no
the
Yeah,
reason.
exactly. You're just tired and
kinda your
you
mind
have
playing a trick
zero
on you.
time.
motivation.
Absolutely, it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, because even in that day, that could be how you feel in the morning. By the time the sun has gone down, you might be like, I know what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love game design. I'm going to do this forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes and goes so fast. Well, for me at least. That
Yeah. Usually it'll come in, and then I kind of know now what to do to get myself out of a funk like that. So I'll
Yeah.
like drive around and like listen to a podcast or something,
Hmm.
just to like clear my head. And there's like a few episodes of certain podcasts that like resonated really well with me.
You save them?
Yeah, I can go back and listen to
Really?
like the interview with that person who's like kind
That's
of
cool.
got their shit together, where they've been down that road. So
Yeah.
they have really
Huh.
good advice on it.
I don't
So
really have a process for getting out of them, but
it doesn't always work, but
Dude,
it's
Yeah.
doing podcasts enormously helps.
probably
just
yeah.
doing something that isn't the main creative thing that you're always doing.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry if it's like if you're not focusing on it mainly. It's not like you're focused on the final product of it.
Mhm.
You're just
Right.
like, I just want to do it and have something to put my energy into and not really worry about it.
That's similar to the thing that I was going to bring up, because once I realized what my motivator was, this whole shame motivation thing, it's like it's actually a really great tool, because when I feel the shittiest, immediately afterwards I work harder than I have ever worked ever.
Yeah.
And so I produce great stuff so quickly after that. But it's like it's not worth it because you have to go to like a bad place.
You gotta go to rock bottom
a place
over and over again.
Yeah, where creative work is not happening at all. And so you have to enter a funk just to get like the very best stuff out of you. So I've been thinking like, how is there a way where you can like trick yourself into just skipping the shame bit, you know? And just getting into like the motivational bit.
The flow state. Yeah.
The result of that. So fuck, I forgot what you just said.
I don't have an answer to that.
I know, I don't either.
I don't think anybody does. I think that's just how
I don't know
most
if it's
people,
possible.
That's the question.
or very few people have figured it out, and those are the ones that we're like looking up to.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you might be right.
They've just kind of figured it out, and they try to explain it like people who are like more like steps ahead of us. Oh, sorry, steps ahead of us in like what we're doing, like using them.
Probably have.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they've been.
Or
there.
maybe it's a natural cycle, and they just have a faster way of noticing that they're getting into like a bad spot, and then getting out of it much faster.
Yeah,
you know?
They've just done it more, maybe.
Yeah, they
Just
have
practice.
more experience at it. I don't know,
that could be what it is.
but yeah,
It's
it's just something
happening.
interesting I've been thinking about lately.
Yeah, never really heard it put that way, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it just like I notice it all the time. I know like someone will say something like at work. Someone will say something to me, and it's like they want me to feel good, but I know it's not genuine. It's because I did a bad job. You know what I mean?
Oh,
They're just
yeah.
like, try again. You know, that's what they mean to say, but they don't say like you kind of fucked up tonight. You know?
Yeah. The brutal honesty that you probably need. Like, we love you, but don't do that again.
Exactly. But as soon as it hits you, it doesn't need to be said because you understand exactly what's going on.
Yeah, you can pick up on the social cues.
You're very aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
then
know I fucked up. I'm sorry.
you come in the next day to work or whatever, and you're incredible. You
Right.
know, it's like, well, I know why. It's because I felt like shit yesterday
that
because
really
I let
hurt.
everybody down yesterday. Yeah, and so you can let yourself down. Let yourself down all the time.
Yeah, it should be the same thing. Like it should be taken the same way.
I
Does that
take it
make
the
sense?
same way. Yeah.
Yeah, like when you're working alone versus when you're working with a team of people or something.
Yeah, because when I'm working alone, there is a little bit of like I know what I should be doing and I'm not doing it, but it's also like if I never put this thing out, there's so many people that are going to be affected by this just in small ways where I'm like, oh, he's been working on that thing for the last 3 years and it never happened. It never came out.
The moment you tell someone about something you're doing, you're like, now you're on the spot for good.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, because even me, like watching you is huge for me. Like
It's fucking terrifying.
if you were to just stop, it would definitely like hurt me.
Really?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And yeah, so you just gave me a little juice. I could feel it.
Yeah.
I just got jolted a little bit.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I hope you're ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Seriously.
true. Yeah.
And it goes back to school too because you know that you're entering into like a financial like shithole that you've invested all this money into it, but it doesn't really hit you until after you've graduated or dropped out. That's what's happening until you have to actually start paying back the student loans.
Ooh,
Yeah.
let's not talk about
That's
that.
an entire other thing.
Yeah.
But you don't know how much time you've invested in something until you've invested a lot of time into it. So
Right.
like now that I'm almost 3 years in, now I'm like, fuck, that has been 3 years. But if I was like 5 months in, I'm like, oh, this thing will come out in a year.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't really invested that much time into it. But I've also already paid artists for work for this. So not only am I letting myself and other people down in a time sense, but I would also be letting myself down in a huge way, in like a student loan kind of a way,
Yeah.
Right.
where it's like, well, fuck, I already paid for this thing to be a finished product. It better be a finished product now, or
Yeah.
why did I spend that money?
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
Paying for a gym membership.
never go.
Never going.
You go
You're like,
once?
I'm still a fat ass and I got $40 a month. This sucks.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's where I'm at right now. So
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
But you're getting close.
I'm getting very close.
Yeah.
Like, how close you thinking? Can you say that right
Yeah, I've been saying it. I've been saying it on Twitter for the last month. I've been trying to be more active on Twitter.
I've noticed that,
and
yeah.
all I can say on Twitter is something is coming. Eventually. And I don't know when. And the last thing I said was something is definitely coming soon. And what that means is that after this podcast airs, I'll be making actual announcements about
cool.
something actually.
So this is kind of special.
People can look at. Yeah, this is definitely kind of special.
We got an exclusive on our hands,
That's
buddy.
really cool.
Yeah.
That's actually really
But
cool.
like, yeah, I'm ready to show off art, and I'm ready to show off at least the first good portion of the rules, the final. Not like it's all completely edited, but like this is exactly how you'll read it when the thing is out.
Now, are you going to have like a 90-page book like D&D does?
90-page D&D book or a
100
500-page
500
D&D
page
book?
D&D.
Yeah,
I underestimated. Sorry.
yeah,
First
yeah.
number that came to my mind. That's a big number.
I know, right? Yeah, D&D books that's intimidating for one thing because they're like
Yeah.
textbooks.
Well, and there's like 12 of them.
Yeah, that's
just
true,
to get
too.
started. Mm-hmm. So
Right now, I'm currently sitting at like 140 without art.
Oh my god, that's still so many.
You're telling
That's a
me.
lot.
That is a lot.
You're telling me, dude. Holy fuck! I can't tell you how long it takes me just to get through a paragraph. Like this is exactly what I meant to say. Because when you're writing, it has to be creative work because you want players to get involved in the setting of your RPG. But it also has to be like a textbook because they have to know exactly how the game is played. And so
It's a hard balance.
So when you're writing a sentence, it has to come off interesting, but it has to also provide information. And it has to provide not too much information that it's going to be like, why are you saying the same thing over and over again? And not too little information that they don't know how to play the game. They're not reading your book because they like setting. They're reading your book because they want to play the game. You know, so it's been a big learning experience.
I bet.
For sure.
You're basically teaching yourself a profession, essentially.
It's just like, you know, how people always say, like, you don't know something until you try to teach someone
Yeah.
how to do it. And so,
That's the best way to learn something sometimes is to try to teach someone.
yeah.
Because then you're forced to go through it all.
And that's what playtesting
Yeah.
is essentially for game design. So, like, you think you have a good game, but then once you try to explain how to play it to other people or have them play it,
You
then
see how it falls apart.
then you realize how quickly everything falls apart.
God. Yeah, that sounds pretty intense, actually.
It is. It
Like
kind of
this-
sucks.
has that happened during some of your playtests?
It happens every playtest.
Oh, okay.
Maybe there might have been one or two playtests where they're like, "Yep, all looks good, very fun." I don't really have anything negative to say, but like, you're not playtesting to have people pat you on the back.
No.
Right.
You're there to find every single little thing that's wrong with it.
Right.
And a lot of the times, it's an enormous thing that affects so much that you just produced a month of work, you
Yeah.
know, that you didn't think you had to do.
Yeah.
So, and it has to be done because it has to be. You can't. At least, well, time constraint really is the only thing that prevents someone with coming out with a game that's fun. That's really the only thing. Like, because no one wants to put out a game that isn't fun, and they know when it's not fun. If they play tested, which they probably have, they know that it's not fun, and then put it out. It's like, well, fuck, we just had to put it out because we didn't have the time.
Yeah.
We didn't have the time to make
Just
it
flopped
fun.
out a big bird.
Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of AAA studios, and you know they're pressured into constantly putting out a product and making money, and so
Yeah.
the games suffer. And that's the problem with being an independent, and video games are even worse because they take so much longer than tabletop games. That if a guy's working like with one person or two people or just by himself, it might be a decade for that fucker's out. There's lots
a
of games
game?
like that. A video game.
Damn. I didn't know that.
Owlboy took a complete decade to make.
Holy shit.
Really?
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yep, and I'm pretty sure it just wasn't one guy. I'm pretty sure there was multiple people
Yeah.
working on it. So,
Man.
Jesus.
and that's kind of the designer's fault, and it's the same thing I'm struggling with right now. Honestly, I shouldn't, because Death Roll is based off of something that I hadn't seen before. I wanted to make an RPG that was competitive. I wanted people to feel like their GM was the bad guy, was the opponent, you know, and I hadn't played or seen an RPG that did that. And so I'm tackling new ground, at least as far as I can tell. And I shouldn't have done that. Not as my first tabletop RPG.
It was a bit much.
It's a bit much. Definitely by myself. Yeah, I should have scaled it way down. It's like I'm diving way into the deep end.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, gotta finish it now.
Yeah,
it's too late,
and it's that shame thing.
Yeah.
It's that shame thing. I can't go back. But that's the downfall of so many newbie designers. Is in particular, if their first product or their first project is a video game, they could accidentally spend a whole decade on that video game because they feel too bad about giving it up.
Damn.
And just moving on to
don't know when to call it.
something easier.
Well, that's kind of how Minecraft was too, wasn't it? Wasn't that was a pretty small studio at first, right?
Yeah,
It took them a long
it's
time.
always. I think it's always been. I think even now it's relatively small.
Is it?
Yeah, and they didn't struggle with that because they released the game to the public like pre-alpha. So
Really?
like
Okay.
there had been barely any work done to it, and people could already access it and pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the game's constantly updated too. So it's not like they're not worried about putting out a finished product because the game's never finished.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
People
Right.
kind of know the way the game works. Like, yeah, they're just gonna change stuff
Right.
over time.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. But
So not that one in particular.
Yeah.
And I guess that was an indie game. It's hard to think about Minecraft as an indie
Yeah, no
game now.
kidding.
because
Yeah,
of how
it's very mainstream now. Yeah.
very mainstream it
I
is.
just remember that game because, like, in the beginning, we didn't have pistons. We didn't have really anything crazy, so we had to get super
Redstone.
creative.
The Redstone.
with
I was there
Redstone,
pre-Redstone.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Mine was like, I think I paid $15 for Minecraft when I first got it.
Yeah,
It was like the beta.
something similar.
Yeah, but the alpha.
I was
like
playing. I was playing in the
$5.
alpha. Yeah,
Oh man, that's crazy.
it was interesting back then because no one had any. They had no clue what this was or what you were supposed to do,
Right.
or
Yeah, there wasn't a clear goal.
there wasn't any
really.
wikis yet all the way
No.
back
Sure.
then.
No,
It was
it
interesting.
was literally knock this down, build something else. Knock this down, build something else. Yeah, that's
I
all.
closed it and opened the game like maybe 3 or 4 times, and I hadn't even like punched through a tree yet. It's like, what the fuck am I? Because I tried. I think the first thing I tried to punch was stone, and it was taking so long.
You thought
I was
it
like,
was-
okay, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. So I just didn't punch anything for a long time.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and obviously the first thing you're supposed to do is punch a
Yeah.
tree.
Punch
That's
and tree.
hilarious.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What was that game, Corey, that you were talking about the other day? That indie. That was kind of an indie game, wasn't it?
Yeah, the weird one that I'm telling like other gamers
Yeah.
that they have to play. 'cause
I'm sure.
it's
I
so
bet
fucked
Connor's
up.
probably played it.
Doki Doki Literature Club.
A Doki Doki sounds familiar.
It
but,
is. Oh god, it is
Doki
like one of the most messed up games I've ever played.
Yeah.
It starts off like those weird Japanese anime dating simulators.
Is it an older game or a newer
No,
game?
it's pretty new.
Yeah.
But it starts off as this like weird Japanese dating sim that you got these like cute schoolgirls who all want to date you, and you literally play this game for an hour and a half, and it's like, yeah, okay, this is like every normal dating sim, and then right at the end, shit hits the fan, and you end the game pretty much like,
Oh,
what,
really?
what, what? And then like the game ends, and it's like saying, what does it say? It's like, I'm gonna have to live with this forever. I can't change this. And you're like, bullshit, I'm just gonna play a new game, see what happens. But the menu changes, and then like new game is
It knows that
encrypted.
you've gone all the way through.
Yes, and certain things change. It's not even like that's just the surface of it.
Yeah.
Because later in your second playthrough, now that things are changed dramatically, some more shit goes down that completely changes what you thought. So like the whole game, you're like, oh, I think I got this figured out. No, I don't have that figured out at all. You even have to go into your files and delete certain files from the game for the
Nice.
game to progress or to do certain
That's
things.
hilarious.
It's insane. But it messed with me. Like I saw Dan the next day, and I don't think I stopped talking about it for a while. I was like, dude, I can't get over this.
There's lots of games like that now, surprisingly. Interesting. Like,
Really?
yeah, Pony Island is one.
What is that?
Exactly. Pony, it's exactly what you think it is when you first starting playing it, and then it devolves into like a satanic, like, like subplot thing that has nothing to do with the title or like
Yeah.
the first 5 minutes of the game. And
Yeah.
Frog Fractions, You guys
Pony
remember?
Island, Frog Fraction.
You remember playing
of
PopCap
animals.
games or
Yeah.
or Newground games?
Oh yeah.
It starts off like that, and then it starts to get weirder and weirder and more abstracted. Like, you're just like doing this one basic thing, and you're like, oh, this is going to be the whole game. And then it starts to become this whole other game, and it just starts getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And it's like, by the end of it, it's no longer like a PopCap game. It's like this. It's really cool. It's interesting. It's free. You can just Google it and play it from
What's
a
that
web
called?
browser. Frog Fractions. Basically, and you won't get any further unless you really try to break it in some way. So essentially, what you have to do is you have to go off screen.
That's
So like on the
fucking weird.
on the first screen, you're like, oh, this is the whole game. But if you try to like, and no one ever does this, but if you try to like push off what looks like a boundary, it's not a boundary, and then you exit into. I just disconnect my mic. Oh Jesus!
Is it just the headphones?
No, I think I just moved it around a little bit.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, yeah, it just starts devolving into a weird whole other game.
Interesting.
It's cool though.
I don't think I've ever played anything like that.
It's kind of trippy. It's like kind of gets in your head. You're like,
What the fuck
okay,
is going
yeah.
on?
Someone's kind of fucking with me here.
Yeah.
I kind of like that kind of game though,
I do too.
because it's something that I think it feels new.
Yeah.
Like that style of game where the game almost is like slightly self-aware of what it is, and
Oh,
it's
definitely.
targeting you as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little
Kinda
eerie.
cool.
It is eerie. It's very eerie.
Did you guys ever play Fez?
No, it's like your favorite
It's
game.
one of my
isn't it?
favorite games
Yeah.
ever, yeah. And it's the first time since I was a kid, which got me so excited about it, that I started to like interact with the game outside of the game. So there's like a lot of puzzles and stuff where you have to get a piece of paper and you have to like work it out on paper while you're looking at the game. And so like referring back down to your piece of paper and the notes you've scribbled and so you have to constantly be doing this
Oh
kind
my
of a
God,
thing.
that's cool.
It's
That is
amazing.
really
It's
cool.
so good. Such a cool game.
Yeah.
But
Fez.
I remember you guys
Fez
were
is
obsessed with
incredible.
that for a while.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of like Frog Fractions. It's just a platformer at first. It has a gimmick that is like, okay, I get what this game is, because it's a 2D game, but then you can flip the perspective. So it's actually a 3D game, but you're only on one plane.
Right.
So you can
remember
flip
that.
to, like, if you're on the front plane, you can flip to the side plane.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically all you're doing the whole game is doing that, flipping planes and collecting little bits. But then after all that, then it takes you outside and you're scanning QR codes, you're looking shit up on the internet, you're deciphering languages that they've written from scratch into English to
Wow.
get into doors, and yeah.
That's
Wow.
really, really cool.
It's amazing. It's so cool.
I wonder if anybody else has done that now.
Yeah, I think that kind of thing is starting to pick up a
take
little
off
bit.
now. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really cool. It's like a fully immersive experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was.
That's cool.
Yeah, I loved it. It was so good. Anyway,
Should talk more about your game, probably.
sure. I suppose.
Pump you up a bit.
What were we when we took our break? What were you and I talking about? I knew it was a bad idea to talk to you a little bit
know.
about something while we were not recording.
We were talking
Don't
about
waste it.
Yeah.
we're talking about how like traps and puzzles
Oh,
and,
okay.
and monsters and stuff might be overpowered or whatever.
So yeah, I wanted to ask you just. You were saying that the player or the GM can place traps throughout, and tell us, go into a little bit more about that, because that sounds really cool to me. So that's kind of their way of steering the players a certain direction.
Kind of. Well, the main pathway is that if the players don't figure out what the grand scheme is and then resolve it, then they'll all die eventually. So they can't just go fuck around in town forever, because eventually they'll die. Something will happen. It's a post-apocalyptic setting, so it's not like you're not going into the nicest of places, and eventually someone will get mad, a monster will appear, something like that will happen, your characters will all die. So there's something that's driving the players toward
Like an end goal.
a finite end, yeah.
Right.
But shit, what were we saying? How the monsters and traps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
the adventure itself. So like normally in tabletop RPGs, the characters that you play as, people have been playing sometimes with the same character their entire life for like decades. And they'll go through all sorts of different adventures with these characters. In Death Roll, since there is an end, a finite end, and then you can win or lose the game, you can... The characters that you create have an end, and you'll put them away and you'll never play as them again. They have their own individual story with a beginning, middle, and end.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And so the way that a GM constructs an adventure is by act. So there's a first act, there's a middle act, and then there's that final act where you hopefully resolve the grand scheme as a player. So the difficult things, they're called aspects, the traps, the monsters, bad weather, stuff like that. Those are all like little, imagine if an adventure was separated into 3 acts and it was like a bowl or something. You can only fill the bowl up with so many things, so many dangerous things.
Yeah.
So if you do start to fill up that act with dangerous things like traps and monsters and stuff like that, the game actually forces the GM to throw in stuff that helps the players instead. So you can't just like put all of your dangerous aspects in the very first act of the game and make it impossible right from the beginning, because you also have to add in all of these things that help them as well.
Got it.
That could be like friendly characters that accompany them on the adventure. It could be like giant, powerful, legendary weapons or something like that. Something that directly helps them with the things that they're getting involved with.
So that keeps it balanced the whole time, basically.
Yeah.
Between the GM and the players.
Yeah, the GM never has an opportunity to abuse their power as GM in the game.
That's really cool.
You just have a certain amount of, like, certain rules or certain things you can do, and that's it.
Yeah, there's things in place that they can put every aspect, every dangerous thing in the first act. Like I said, I'm not restricting them from doing that, but then they also have to add in all this other helpful stuff.
Yeah.
So it just wouldn't be wise to do that as a GM. You wouldn't. No
one would want to play with you anyway.
True. That's true.
When you do this, you always put a giant dragon in the beginning. You suck. We never win.
And it's not like like I was saying earlier, the GM only has so many giant dragons. Like, you might get lucky and get a few, but those are literally the only few that you have in the entire adventure.
Yeah.
So if you do put them all in the beginning, and somehow the players are able to overcome all of them, they don't have to kill them. They can just sneak around them or whatever.
Right.
That's it. Bye. Bye, dragons. You know what I mean?
Now, when they're designing the game, for some reason I picture them having to like roll to figure out what creatures they can put into the game. Like, is there something like that, or how does that work?
There isn't like a bestiary or something that describes a whole bunch of different monsters you could possibly add in. It's just you have a monster and it's this powerful for these reasons. It's up to you to figure out what that thing is. What does it look like? So it's not as
rigid.
It's not as rigid as it might seem. There's a lot of structure in this game because there has to be to make it competitive. But the GM can still skin anything however they want.
Yeah, as long as it has the stats.
Right. Yeah, the stats are what are important.
You're allowing that creativity to the GM.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be dragons. It doesn't have to be fantasy monsters. It could be whatever they want it to be. The setting is important. I have like developed a setting where the game takes place, but I've always been of mind that players don't really give a shit about the setting. Like in Dungeons and Dragons, they don't care who the gods are. They don't care what the religions are or why they matter. They're going to play whatever version of Dungeons and Dragons they want to play that they care about. And they're going to leave all that other stuff out. So in the way I perceive it, it's fantasy monsters. The way someone else perceives it, they can just skin it the way they want, and I won't restrict them.
That's really cool.
From doing that. That would be a very silly tabletop RPG. That would be completely missing the point of it being a tabletop RPG if you had to put in fantasy monsters or something.
Right.
Yeah. So you're not like creating out of thin air. You're not creating like new monsters and stuff. Does that make sense?
Me as the designer,
the player
or as
will.
The player?
The player will. Okay.
The player will. The player can. Yeah. So
I don't know if I'm asking a stupid question.
No, you're not.
You're
There's this took me forever to figure out, and I'm pretty positive about this. I'm not positive about a lot of stuff. I'm not very sure about a lot of stuff, but I'm pretty sure there are 5 things in every RPG that are a problem, and that's combatants, it's cities, it's environmental stuff, it's what's the other one? Factions. So like, you know, the Empire in Star Wars or whatever. And then there's like traps and puzzles, but those are kind of like the same thing essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those things are set in stone. You can only add those things, but I'm pretty sure that's everything you might ever want to add
Yeah.
to a story like that. So it's the player's responsibility to skin it however they like.
Gotcha. Oh, being your friend.
Okay.
And like listening to you talk about this game, I don't know that much about it.
Right.
Even though I've known you've been working on it forever, and we usually talk about like our whatever we're working on in a very like it's like not very detailed way.
Yeah, because it's all creative work. It's all the same thing.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Like you're talking about your game, and you're just like, yeah, I was just working on my game, and I like really have no idea what you're doing.
Here's the thing I'll say.
So this is all like new. This is knowledge.
This is the first you've heard of it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. For how
Well, and
Same here.
that's
how good of
intentional.
friends we are. It's weird, really.
Yeah.
That's intentional because that's not what we're going to connect on. Because
Exactly.
you don't do that. We're going to connect on trying to make something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's the same. Whatever you're trying to do, you're going about it the exact same
Everyone has
way.
the same struggles and ups and downs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true.
So what I'll say is we could spend the rest of this podcast talking about Death Roll, but if people want to learn about Death Roll, they can just go to the website, you know, or they can wait until the game comes out. Because there's going to be a lot of people that don't... this is doing nothing for them. You know what I mean?
Well, it might be, and that's kind of why we try to keep it
Right.
try not to go too like dry with it. Like most of this stuff is pretty like we're obviously learning about you, but a lot of it's very relatable for most people. Like it's kind of it can be general as well.
Right. And I think the important bits come from like how's it been working on this thing, like because people are also working on things and like
they want to know your human experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not obviously like no one is working on a tabletop RPG. You know what I mean? I'm in a very small minority of people.
Yeah.
So that's hard to relate to that. But everyone, well, not everyone, but most people are working on something. At least the people that we're communicating with. So
For the most part, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much everyone in our circle, our group.
I'll just say that Death Roll has taken me a long time to make because I'm trying to do something that I've never seen before, and I've never made a tabletop RPG before. So there's a lot of new things that have they've all just been learning experiences. Just been one gigantic learning experience that's taken 3 years to figure out.
That's a lot of time.
Which I think most game designers fall into that trap because I want to make the biggest, best thing no one's ever done, and I want it to be amazing. But that takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And a lot of skill that you don't have being that fresh.
Yeah.
So
Skill that you have to learn as you go. It just makes it longer.
A bunch of smaller projects would be the better route, I would say.
Yeah, because also the first couple that you come out with are going to be like it might just pop off and go crazy, but more than likely it's just your first one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about that you spent 3 years, but you have to do it. It's something you have to do.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with it failing, and I don't want people to think like, oh, he's not confident in the thing that he made. I'm just real. Like it's gonna be my first Kickstarter, and it's gonna be my first tabletop RPG. I'm not gonna expect it to be funded. You know, I'm not gonna, and that's fine if it isn't funded. Right now, my goal is to launch the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, you're just
launch it.
One step at a time.
I don't care if it fails or succeeds or whatever. Exactly. Just one little step at a time. Because also, this will free me to start working on other stuff.
Yeah.
And not that I don't. I think I've made something cool here, and people are interested in that. They can go and research it, and maybe they'll think the same thing. But,
Yeah.
and the game will eventually, in its unedited form, will be available for free to anyone who wants to play it.
Cool.
The whole thing.
That's awesome.
So all they need is the dice and the cards and pencils.
Material.
Yeah, exactly. And so when the
Printer.
final game comes out, when the Kickstarter is launched, you don't have to fund the Kickstarter to get the game. You can get the game, but if you want the game with all the pretty pictures and color and all that stuff,
Extras,
yeah, then you can decide to fund it.
Cool.
But whatever.
Do you have a time? Still don't really have time span, do you?
No, I do. And
For the Kickstarter, I mean.
yeah, for the Kickstarter, if I don't get it out before April, I'm gonna brain myself. So, if I honestly, if I don't get it out within a month, I'll be pretty upset, I think.
Okay.
So,
Well, we can rely on your shame to push you through.
absolutely, yeah. That's it's gotten me this far, so it'll continue to push me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Awesome.
shit. What was I gonna say? All the systems and everything are done, so it's not like I don't have any new thing to develop.
Mm-hmm.
It's just working out small little discrepancies and things that need to be edited, and editing the whole thing, and all the development that needs to be done. Because game design, it's kind of like it's not a fair term, because it's not just game design, it's also game development. And the people the thing that people are familiar with is game development. Like, I understand that there's rules, right? But to make a game, you gotta, if it's a digital game, there's gotta be a guy who codes it that makes the thing work. And there has to be art and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like the things that you're interacting with. That's development. That's like 80% of the process. The first 20% is, it's not easier per se, but it's just like a mysterious thing. Like, the whole objective during that time is making people have fun. Producing a thing that people are gonna enjoy. And it's a lot harder than it seems. It's definitely as mysterious as it seems. It's weird. Yeah, trying to create a thing that is gonna allow people to have fun is weird.
Yeah.
Very weird. Yeah, because you can make a game that works, that plays, and it's, you can't abuse it, you can't break it in any way, but it's no fun.
Yeah.
And so there's no point in making it.
There's
if
nothing
it's
to
not
find
fun.
out about it.
And there's games that have been produced that are like that. That are well designed, but just not any fun.
Give us an example.
Flux, the card game Flux, is a great example of that. It's
I don't know if I
basically,
played that.
or some people might say Hearthstone. I
Yeah.
don't know if, because it's mostly luck based.
It is very roll the dice,
Yeah.
RNG.
And so
stuff.
when you lose, basically on the digital flip of a coin, it's not very fun.
Yeah.
It gets real frustrating.
The game
really quick.
works, but it's just, a lot of the times it's not very fun for that reason. So,
And who wants to play something that's not fun?
no
Because
one.
you're not really playing at that
A
point.
sociopath.
You're just working.
There's some people that play games that are just really well designed but aren't any fun. Like, there's a lot of MMOs like that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole
Did
grind.
you ever play Summoner's War on just the mobile game? That's one of those ones for me.
A lot of mobile games, I guess,
It
are
wasn't
like that.
fun. It was just more of a task.
Yeah.
Kinda
I think
like
a
how
lot
Skyrim
of mobile
can be.
games. I think a lot of mobile games are kind of like that though, where they look really pretty and there's nothing to it. It's just addictive. It's something that you can do repetitively.
Yeah.
That makes you.
It's like you're describing Skyrim.
And it's pretty repetitive.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
There's only so much you can do, you
Yeah.
know. When it's not a competition where it's, you're trying to win, and trying to win every time is totally different than all the other times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Minecraft, because there's nothing to do. If you don't create anything to do, then
Yeah. Your
There's
tasks
literally
are
nothing to do.
literally that's all you have. It's just you I'm going to build a cathedral. You're done with that cathedral and you're like, well,
fuck, now what?
what do
Guess
I
I
do?
should maybe
I'm
go
gonna walk
outside.
around
That
my-
wasn't as fun as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that looks really cool.
That's it.
All right, I'm over it.
Yeah.
And then something
Yeah.
blows it up, and you're like,
Yeah, it's not even like you get to do anything with it once you build it. You're
Right.
just like, oh,
and
that's
if you're playing by yourself, who is playing by themselves? Because you can't even show it off to anyone.
yeah, that's like the main thing.
It's
to
like,
do,
why
is
did you
show
even
your
do
friend
it?
And they go, oh wow, this is really cool.
It's
Your
just
friends
like
come over, you're like, guys, look what I did on
I
Minecraft.
used to
Nobody
do that.
gives
And then they're like, isn't that for like 5-year-olds?
yeah. Now.
Like, shut up. No, it's not.
They use it in classrooms now to like
Yes, they do.
let kids express themselves.
Yeah,
It's a good
Pretty
tool.
cool. Yeah, it's pretty
it
cool.
makes sense.
When I worked with kindergarten, the kids would be talking about Minecraft, and I'd like interject real quick, just not even thinking about it, and they were like,
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
"You play Minecraft?"
One of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was in.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome.
Nice. Way to go. So, I have something for you that I think you might find interesting
Okay.
about Death Roll. Okay? So, the GM is the enemy, right? He's
Right.
the bad guy sitting across the table from you. That's not just like an abstract thing. Like, we have to defeat this guy by doing all this stuff in the game. Because the GM is actually represented by a character in the game. And he's the character that devised the grand scheme. He's the arch villain.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
if you can get, and the arch villain is required to appear during these acts of an adventure. So, if you are able to get to the arch villain, which he will reveal himself, essentially the GM is revealing themselves. And if you can kill the arch villain at any point, then the game ends and the players win.
Oh wow.
So,
So that's kind of like a meta you can go for.
yeah, it's like an alternative win condition, but it's like the survivors or that's what they're called, survivors. The players are always represented by a character. The GM is never represented by anything. The GM just controls this swath of things that a GM normally controls. But in Death Roll, they are the villain. They are Darth Vader in this story. And if you can get to them, or the Emperor, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
and kill them, then there's no point in following the grand scheme anymore. The grand
Right.
scheme's done without the arch villain. So, kind of an interesting
That's
thing.
really cool.
Yeah. So it's fun to, because since it's competitive, you're gonna get into like heated moments with the GM, because the GM has all this power. Normally has all this power, and then when the GM reveals themselves, becomes vulnerable, it creates a situation where the players get like giddy to have a chance at actually killing
Yeah.
the character that represents them in game.
That's pretty cool.
It's kind of fun.
I like that. Well, and I like that almost includes the GM a little bit more, because like when
Yeah.
you're a dungeon master in Dungeons and
Just
Dragons, you're
ambiguous
literally
thing.
just the guy who's telling the story, and then everyone's screwing it up, and you're getting annoyed. And, yeah, I think that's really cool. That gives them more of a. It gives them more stake in the game.
Right.
I really like that.
It makes everything more personal too, because everything that, well, most of these dangerous aspects that are in the game can be a result of that arch villain, which represents the GM. So like all of these trials and encounters that you're coming across as a player, they're all a direct result of this guy, this big bad guy that you keep noticing and you keep wanting to get close to, but he keeps escaping or something.
Right.
And he keeps throwing all of these things at you to keep himself from being killed. And so there is resources. Those resources are all the dangerous things that you can add to a game. So you can either spend most of those resources offensively to try and kill the players' characters, or you have to present your arch villain at some point. You can use them defensively to just surround your arch villain with a bunch of bad guys, a bunch of traps. You can put them high up in a castle or something
Yeah.
like that. So you kind of have to wager how you want to use all the things you have available to you.
Can you be sneaky about it? Like, can you make it so that this character can be present almost the whole game, and then suddenly, this is who I am.
And he reveals himself.
And he reveals himself, and you're like, you've been here the whole time.
Yeah, totally. That, however, I don't know. That's up to the GM. That's the GM's discretion, because that's super vulnerable. That's extremely risky
Right.
to do that. Because if they did prematurely find out who that character was, and maybe that's a character that they're like literally face to face with, and they could just jab him right there,
Right.
on the spot, and end the whole thing.
Yeah.
So-
But do you have to say, when you put that character out, you don't have to go, this is the arch nemesis?
No, you just have to put him out.
That's pretty cool.
And there'll be tells. You know what I mean? Like, you'll know when someone important has entered the scene. And even if you haven't, you know that at some point during an act, the archvillain will reveal themselves or will be accessible. So players will constantly be picking every little NPC apart to figure out who's who, if the GM wants to make him
Right.
a secret character.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Your what was I gonna say? I lost it. Sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
That's all good. I was going to ask you what some of your bigger like struggles that you've overcome when you've been working on this game.
The biggest,
that would be that'd be good to talk about.
The biggest struggle of all was, and I refer to it, I think, on the website. I don't think I refer to it in the rule book, just because it's like explicitly the biggest problem something like this provides, is that when you tell someone who's a fan of tabletop RPGs that you're making a competitive version of it, their first thought is, you're missing the point. Like, speaking to me, you're missing the point of a tabletop RPG. It's not competitive. It's the total opposite of competitive. We're just here to have a good time. We're here to sit down and cooperatively tell a fun story and have laughs.
Right.
So having to convince players that it is possible to still have fun, to still laugh, and kind of cooperatively go through a story, but also have all of these restraints, like winning and losing conditions, and, you know, like clear objectives, and ending adventures, and ending using characters. That has been like the biggest struggle. And keeping it fair, too, because GMs, like I said, they normally have access to whatever they can think of. As difficult as an adventure can be, it is that if the GM wants it to be. In other RPGs, those players might never ever play that GM again because he was a dick for making it so hard.
Right.
But that's what, if your objective as the GM is to kill all the players and you had free will to do whatever you want, that's exactly what you would do.
Right.
And it wouldn't be any fun. So then I had to think of this enormous, I call it adventure creation, this enormous process that the GM has to go through to make a fair, challenging, and fun campaign.
Yeah.
It's taken almost 3 years to figure out.
You really have thought of everything, man.
I try.
Have you had other people playtest as the GM?
Yeah, you have to.
And what did they think? Was that process too much, or were they like, oh, this is really cool? What were their thoughts on that?
It doesn't seem like it's too much, because being the GM is too much.
Right.
You know,
There's a lot to it anyway.
There's a lot to it. So adventure creation funnels you down a path where you can at least get started.
Yeah.
You can at least have something. You may not know where it goes from there. Like the players, they can do whatever they want, so they can take it wherever they want. But you can at least. So I think people were having an easy time getting things going, but keeping things competitive is the hard part. Because as the GM, you want people to have fun, and so when they do something that kind of like goes against the competitive nature, like you want them to fail. As a GM, you want the players to fail everything they try. But you kind of want them to try things that are really fun and are going to make people laugh.
Right.
So you don't want, you kind of give them, and I refer to that in the book, it's called give and take. You want to give them a little bit, you know. You don't want to be so hardcore that it's just a competitive experience, and, you know, because the GM has so much power.
Right.
And they can abuse that easily. If they choose to forego 1 or 2 rules while creating the adventure, the whole thing falls apart competitively. So,
Right.
yeah, I guess it's more of the struggle comes with running the adventure. I mean, that's the meat of being the GM anyway.
Right.
Not knowing how to react. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So where can people find you? Like, is Twitter the best place to get
Yeah,
like
that's the only
updates about all
social
this
media
stuff?
I have.
Okay.
You can find me at Hootie Games.
Hootie Games.
Hootie, like a hooting owl. Hootie Games.
You love owls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
On Twitter. Or deathrolrpg.com is the website you can go. You can check out the art. You can check out, eventually, the entire game will be on there. You can actually check out how development has been, like, from years ago. I have, like, little playtests I've uploaded there.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I have, like, certain mechanics and systems that I've uploaded there that I dissect for people so they can understand them in further detail and stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting to go back and see how awful a lot of things were and how hard I was
the early
struggling.
stages of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's one thing I do a lot is go back and look at things that I've made, like, a long time ago.
Yep.
I was doing that last night, actually, like, going way back.
It's a good reminder.
You're just like, okay.
It can either
Like,
be
I'm
really
getting-
good or really bad.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I've come a long way, or maybe
wow, this sounds-
maybe I've digressed a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
I have a lot of versions of it too that are saved and they're in folders, so I can go back to
Yeah, you never want to delete something.
Well, I never saved over things too. So like if
Right.
a rule changed, there's the older version of that rule still exists in a folder somewhere, so I can go back and see
That's
how
good.
clunky it was
Yeah,
at
that's
the very
cool.
beginning.
It's cool seeing the contrast between those two. I feel like,
Yeah.
like going back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's motivating too.
important. Yeah.
Like, holy shit, I really have done a lot to
Yeah.
make this thing.
Because sometimes
the way
it's
it
easy to
is.
feel like just stagnant
Definitely.
when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Especially when you're working alone too
For 3 years.
for 3 years.
Yeah, you don't have anyone else to bounce all your ideas off of, or like.
I mean, yeah, I
can
do that
share it,
occasionally.
With the playtest, I guess that's kind of what that's for.
There's so much grunt work though. Like, I could bounce an idea off of someone, and then they could come back to me, and I do, with feedback that I take and then I use to develop that thing further. But the development of that thing is like me sitting alone in a room for a week.
Yeah.
You know? So like, even if I wanted to bounce an idea off of someone, now's not the time. Now's the time to do the actual work.
Yeah,
And
right.
It takes a full week of just being by yourself and doing it,
Yeah.
which sucks.
We talked a little bit on the last podcast about trusting feedback.
Yeah.
Do you ever? Is there ever
These are good
feedback-
questions.
Like, do you ever get those people where you're like, I don't know if I should really trust this person's like opinion? Like, don't let them get too involved. Like, if they're not quite the right person.
It's interesting because I think I was doing it for a little while too. A lot of the time you test with other people that are also interested in game design. And so they're all coming at it from one angle, and it's a very like, it's an angle where they understand what you're trying to do and you're not doing it yet. But when you're working with like mom or somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some person who doesn't even know what RPG
Like stands
for. Yeah. They still have really good feedback. It's just, what kind of feedback are you looking for? Does this thing translate to everyone? Is that important right now to figure out if that's the case? Then test with that person. You know, if not, if you're looking for more specific feedback from a person that really understands the genre, then you'll go. So if I'm playtesting with a bunch of people, there might be 2 or 3 people that are like my people that night, and then maybe 1 or 2 that aren't. And so like their feedback isn't as still valuable, but not the feedback that I need that night.
Right.
And still, but even, you have to, I feel like, I was thinking this the other day, even though I have been working on this by myself this whole time, really the playtesters have made this game. Because I'm so green as a game designer, I'm so, like I said, it's just been a giant learning experience. Not that any of the playtesters may have had more experience than I have at this, but they're just noticing enormous critical things. Like I said,
Critical failures.
yeah, that take like a whole month of work. And so they might give me an idea that develops an entire system, which would be like a month's worth of work. So really, I've had other game designers, the testers, help me produce this thing from scratch. So it's not really my thing. It's everyone who I've ever talked to who have given me that kind of advice or that
awesome.
kind of idea.
It's like a community thing.
Yeah, it's all
very
in
cool.
working alone as a game designer. You're gonna fail anyway. You know, it's at least gonna be 10 times harder to try and produce anything that's good, and that's what playtesting is for. But you got to know when and when not to playtest, because, like I said, sometimes it can get in the way. And what you really need to do is just sit alone in a room and work on something.
Right.
But yeah.
For sure. I think we should. We're all looking pretty tired here.
Yeah.
Pretty late.
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
For some reason, having the headphones on is like, I feel like I'm centered here. Like,
You can't move.
that and like everything else that's happening, like the time that's going by.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's a very cool thing I love about doing podcasts.
Yeah.
It's out there. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about it.
That's
when
so
I'm
true.
sitting right here.
Yeah. I think about that every time we do a podcast because there's no, you're so on the spot. There's no time to think about anything else going on.
Yeah, I think it's
awesome.
Discord, honestly.
Well, and that does it too. You're kind of all, we're all just plugged in right here. We can't really move.
There's definitely like a certain kind of flow state that you kind of get into.
Yeah, for sure. You feel very centered when you do podcasts.
Yep.
Or when I feel the same way when I listen to them too. You're not like off in fucking
No,
robot mode.
My full attention's with it. Usually, I try to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, man.
Cool.
We'll do it again. We'll have to get you back on here when we're doing the.
Yeah, maybe a year from now.
Well,
Maybe 3 more years from now.
right.
We'll check back in.
Hopefully not.
We'll see.
I hope it's not that long.
No, it won't
But here in maybe a few weeks or.
Like I
couple months or
said,
something.
April is the cutoff date, and then there'll be a news article about me.
Something will happen.
Yeah.
Cool.
Something awful will have happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, cool. Awesome, man.
Thanks.
Yep.
That
Thanks
was
for coming
fun,
on, man.
Thanks.
Thank you.